I'm really excited and happy for what we're going to be leading off with today. It has pretty much everything you could want, and I think it's going to be one of the biggest things to hit crypto this year. It has rockets, it has satellites, it has SpaceX involved, and the sheer scale of it is absolutely mind-blowing. Welcome back. I'm Brandon, the HBAR Bull, joined finally again by Zepsi after a little bit of a break. We both do some contract work for the HBAR Foundation, but we don't do these weekly updates in any official capacity. We're just coming to you personally to give you the latest in the Hedera ecosystem. Welcome back, Zep.
How's it going, Brandon? It's been a long while, and I've dearly missed it, but I'm back now.
It has been a while. What have you been up to?
Just working behind the scenes, really. You know, there's a lot of marketing ideas that we've got specifically for the retail side of things, and really sort of trying to build out a strategy for that and a plan for that. So that's really been the top of mind for me. Really seeing how we can sort of accelerate that retail marketing that we haven't seen before, and really get our name out there in that ecosystem as opposed to the enterprise side of things.
Well, good stuff. But as always, none of this is financial advice. Use it for entertainment or educational purposes only. So this first interview we have, again, it's in the transactional Internet of Things space. It's Carlos. He is the CEO and co-founder of SealSQ, of WiseSat and WiseKey, and he can certainly cover it a lot better than I can, so I'm going to hand it over to him. Carlos, welcome back.
Hey, nice to see you again.
Likewise.
How are you?
Likewise, I'm doing very well. Carlos, we're going to jump right into the questions here. I know the community is really curious about what you're working on. So SealSQ had an announcement of a partnership with Saudi Arabia to help them meet their Vision 2030 digital goals. Can you tell us about that partnership and what you're going to be providing them with?
Yeah, so as you know, the hash graph Hedera has signed a agreement. It's a $250 million agreement with the PIF, which is the Public Investment Fund of Saudi Arabia, to basically develop a ecosystem of companies that will use Hedera backend network as a way to develop innovation. You know, Saudi Arabia is a big innovation country. They are spending billions of dollars on creating an intelligent country by the year 2030. So because we have a joint venture in Saudi Arabia, we have been doing that for many years, we discussed with Hashgraph how we could join forces by bringing our knowledge of cybersecurity, of the market, what we are doing with the Saudis in microchip semiconductor, plus what Hedera is doing with the Public Investment Forum. So this is basically the project. I mean, now what we are doing is identifying projects, and they will candidate to that funding. And those projects will be funded with $250 million. Hedera has put $50 million, and the Saudi government has put $200 million. And the idea is to leverage that, right? So we could go much higher as we move forward with concrete projects. And as we have boots on the ground, we have people, and we have experience, we are bringing part of those concrete projects to the funding process.
So one of the things I picture when I think of their Vision 2030 goals is things like smart cities and things like that, and actually utilizing your transactional Internet of Things. Is that what we're talking about?
Correct. I mean, intelligent city requires 1 billion semiconductor. One city, 1 billion. And you have cities like Neon and others emerging in the country that they are going to be truly a showcase on what smart cities of the future will be. Smart cities has been, we're talking about smart city for many years, but we don't really yet have a smart cities. We have pieces of cities on there are smart, but not really a truly designed from scratch smart city. And that's what the Saudis are bringing. They are bringing a total innovation. They are creating a very powerful, sustainable platform, because obviously they have sustainability issues. It's a very warm country, so they have to control climate in a more complex environment than what we have, and we are helping them to do that, right? So yes, smart cities, big users, and then because you have 1 billion objects in a smart cities, you need to interrelate the transaction between those objects. Imagine a car talking to a traffic light, or a car getting data from another car, and you need to pay for that information exchange. So that's what the Hedera-based Seal coin is going to help. Is creating those enormous multiple transactions between objects. Then they are going to be transacting in a very trusted and unique way. This has never been done. So the smart city obviously is the platform which will leverage and make this exponential.
So, Carlos, what do you think some of the first objects that will participate in these transactional Internet of Things network, and when do you think the first transactions will actually hit the Hedera network?
I mean, mobility is the big thing, right? Mobility means the car-to-car transaction. The car needs data from another car. We're talking about robo taxis, cars that they are paying the parking meter, or cars that they are paying electricity from an EV charger, or cars that they are getting direction data from the cloud. So this is going to be one of the first industries happening already. I mean, we have already clients and they are buying chips with the capability of transacting between themselves. So everything which is people moving in a city, cars moving in a city, trucks moving in a city, all that is the first market. The identity is stored in a ledger, in a Hedera ledger. So every time somebody transacts with another, that goes back to the Hedera ledger, right? The ledger say yes or no, I accept that transaction. So there is a fee, transactional fee, that is injected directly into the Hedera network. And that fee is a transactional fee, so imagine billions of transactions generating billions of microcents, and those microcents aggregate into the revenue of the platform.
I love the idea, we talk about onboarding the next billion users, but of course we want to do that, but onboarding the next trillion objects is just as important, or even more so, because they're going to be doing most of these transactions. So Carlos, we also got some really good community questions. We got one from HBAR who asked, can Carlos please go deeper into how his new chips compete with GPU chips? He said he found some really good information, but he'd like to hear it from you as well.
So GPU are doing an amazing job, mainly because the game industry and now AI, but their limitations are based on centralized infrastructure. So that means big data centers, and they're growing enormously. They're using a lot of energy. This is not sustainable. I mean, the centralization of GPU helps now because there's a huge demand on AI, but will not help in the future. I mean, so we are looking into a decentralized semiconductor strategy, which is based on RISC-V and TPM, which are the two big industry standards, where basically you can generate the same power of a GPU, but in a decentralized way. So imagine 1,000 chips having the same power than one GPU chip. And the beauty of that is that you can let the world to benefit from AI, and not only the big companies that they can afford to pay billions of dollars to equip themselves with data centers and GPU, right? So this is democratizing the IoT industry by decentralizing the power from big data centers, which are not sustainable. Big data centers are big polluters, right? I mean, you need a lot of energy to power those data centers. If you decentralize, then you can let billions of devices decentralize around the world to communicate between themselves in a peer-to-peer way, exchange energy between themselves, exchange transaction, and reach the same power and the same processing capability of a GPU chip. So obviously there's going to be, now the focus is on GPU, so everybody's investing in NVIDIA, companies like that, but slowly people are going to realize that actually blockchain and Hedera and YSK and SealSQ are a perfect potential, I will not say a competitor, but I will say a component of decentralization of that amazing power that is being generated now by GPU. And I'm sure because the competition on GPU is also getting very high, NVIDIA and other companies are going to start to look as well to look into this segment, right? Because decentralization always goes faster than centralization. So that's the main issue: decentralization against centralization, democratization of the technology against creating monopolies, which is what is happening now, and making AI available for the rest of the world without the need to centralize in one or two cities and making those cities huge, powerful.
So, well, that's one of the things, NVIDIA is doing an amazing job in the space they have, but they only can grow so much. Do you think they're going to be looking to decentralization as the next phase of, AI and everything else that we have going on here?
It is a different philosophy. It's like Google went so big on search, and how difficult it is for them to move away from search, right? I mean, once you get into that so big and so fast, to retrofit yourself and go into decentralizing is very difficult, because the culture of the company is to create those very big data centers selling you billions of dollars on chips. The decentralization is like the open source of IoT, basically, is that people will, by the way, RISC-V is an open source standard, so you can basically develop anywhere in the world. So the chips that we are selling, they are post-quantum chip. That means that they is able also to defend a quantum attack. GPUs chips are going to be also challenged by quantum. Quantum can attack very easily data centers. So if it's centralized, it's going to be more difficult to decentralize attacks, because you will have to break chip by chip rather as centralization location. So as a cybersecurity design is a much better design. But I think new companies like SealSQ, like WiseKey, like Hedera are going to become the next players. Obviously, NVIDIA is going to be very big for a long time, but as you say, they are reaching a situation where it's going to be a saturation in the market, and they will have to retrofit themselves.
Well, it's a fantastic vision. I'm not surprised that our community is curious about this portion of the tech, but of course they're going to be curious about the token as well. Pearson Art was curious about your Seal token. Can you go into a deeper dive around the token? When is it going to be available? What are the tokenomics for the token? And how's it going to be used for communication between the devices?
Yeah, so the good news is actually, I don't know, and this is public information. Everything I'm giving you is public information because we are a listed company, right? But we just launched a company with Hashgraph. The Hashgraph Association is a shareholder of SealCoin AG, which is a Swiss company in Zug. So this has only happened just a few weeks ago. I was with Andrew. We were in Monaco with the Prince, talking about how Hedera and SealCoin could help him in raising funds for his Ocean Protection Foundation, which is a Monaco foundation. So he's also very interested and curious about tokenization, of see how we can raise funding to resolve some of the very, very urgent needs of the ocean, right? Of avoiding the ocean to suffocate. And they want to use this technology. So this company is already moving into several very concrete projects that they are now wanting to develop a partnership with us. So Hashgraph and WiseKey they are shareholders of SealCoin AG. So that's a very major milestone. Now, the SealCoin roadmap is very advanced. As you know, the tokenization is ready. Actually, we are working with the top experts from Hedera and Hashgraph because they have done that before. So we are using their knowledge and their experience on tokenization. So that part is going very well. We also finalized, actually you have sealcoin.ai, which you can see the progress of the company, where we also have developed our own white paper. So all that is there. Now we are in the regulatory process. As you know, tokens are confused. Some of the regulators don't know the difference between utility and security tokens. So we are discussing now with the FINMA, which is the Swiss regulator, and with the SEC, with this American regulator, because we are a listed company on the NASDAQ, right? By the way, this is a very interesting project here. It's going to be one of the first time a NASDAQ listed company is going to issue a token, so that's a very powerful message as well to the industry that you can combine the old economy with the new economy. So we really gave ourselves the token to be on exchange by Q4 this year. We are totally focused on it. It's going to happen. Now what we are developing, which is what the market needs, is use cases on use the token, like a proof of concepts. So the first proof of concepts are done by us, by our technology, by connecting cars with plug. We also have a very exciting project coming, which has been already announced as well. So we can discuss that, which is drone technology, WiseKey chips. SealSQ chip and WiseKey security are securing Parrot drones. Those are drones that they are used for all kind of logistic operations. And Parrot is one of the leading drone companies in the world. They are competing against the Chinese. It's a lot of issues about using Chinese drone in the United States, for instance. So we have a very good alternative now. And those drones are exchanging services. So let's say you want to own the data the drone is capturing with the camera, you're going to pay with SealCoin. You want the drone to do a specific delivery because the drone is like an Amazon delivery, you're going to pay with SealCoin. So we are developing proof of concept, and by the time we launch the coin, it's not only a speculative project, it is really based on concrete use cases that is going to, as you say before, is going to just expand because we are dealing with trillions of objects, and this is going to get bigger and bigger. And by the time you cover those trillion objects, you are as big already as an NVIDIA company is, right? So there is a huge market opportunity ahead of us.
Very exciting. So I want to talk a little bit more about your infrastructure. The launch of your second constellation of satellites will take place this fall by SpaceX. Would you be up for some co-branded events with SealSQ and Hedera? And can you just tell us a little bit more about the launch?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you follow me on social media, you see that I am traveling a lot with Andrew. Andrew Forson is the Chief Investment Officer of Hedera. He's the guy now running all the investment discussions of the Hedera group and Hashgraph. And then what we do together is use those events. We did an event together in Italy about the tokenization of art. We did just 2 weeks ago, we were with Prince Albert in Monaco, also with Hedera. And obviously, yeah, we are working towards making a very big splash during the launch, because the launch not only is a launch and everybody loves to see a rocket leaving, that's a very big experience. But in plus of that, you have the next generation satellite, and we have developed, which is going to be the first launch of the new generation satellite that has already the capability of exchanging tokens between the satellite and the Earth station. So those tokens are exchanged. So imagine that you want to use the satellite to track a container in the middle of the sea, and that communication is going to be paid with tokens, and those tokens are going to be issued on the Hedera network. So this is a moment where all those technology converge into a rocket launch. So we are very excited about that, because this is a SpaceX, and they will always give you, depending on the weather conditions and the positioning, you always know 1 week or 2 weeks. So we don't know if it's going to be the 1st of November or the 27th of October. We will inform the market in due time. And yes, we're going to do an event. We're going to bring technology partners. We're going to bring experts to analyze this world first, which is blockchain on the space, right? I mean, the possibilities are endless. We're even talking now to the next generation blockchain nodes that could go into the space. Imagine, rather of running nodes which requires a lot of cybersecurity on Earth, imagine that you just put the node on the space by launching next to the satellite communication process, and then revert the verification done from Earth to space. That will reduce the cost of maintaining data centers, maintaining nodes. So imagine blockchain on the space is a very big endeavor that could inspire people by launching this project in November.
Well, that's one of the reasons why we're geographically, decentralized. We have, on every continent, in the world except for Antarctica, we have a Hedera node, but we don't have one in space yet. So it's great that you're thinking along those lines. I know that you have a relationship with Elon. Do you think there's any way we could get him involved? Because I know he's interested in this kind of stuff as well.
He's a technology fanatic. So if he realizes, and he will realize, that we are pushing the envelope, then we are bringing something that he doesn't have yet, because he obviously is a very big blockchain ambassador, and he loves crypto, but he didn't put it yet together himself. So if he sees us coming with a serious project, I'm sure he will get all his support. I already met him, as you know, in a political environment. That will be in a technical environment, and we are launching his own rocket. So yeah, for sure we will continue getting his support. But what is more important here is this decentralization effort. There's a lot of people that they are willing to put time, money, because this is the future of the Earth. It's not to create mega cities and go into a centralization mode again, as we were in the past. This is about decentralization, about inclusion, about sustainability, and use the space as the next frontier. And yes, let's put blockchain on the space. That's what this project is going to be all about.
Well, I'd love to ask him a few questions. Carlos, is there anything else you'd like to pass on before we let you go?
No, just to congratulate you for your channel. It's great. We did a great coverage last time. I think right on. I see all your interviews. So you are an amazing ambassador And we thank you for that.
Well, again, we appreciate you taking the time, and good luck.
Good luck for you too. All the best.
I mean, very exciting as always to see Carlos's vision there for what is a absolutely massive project in terms of its potential within the scope of DePIN, which is of course one of the long-term prevailing narratives, within Web3. What I was really excited about there specifically was this launch next to SpaceX. You mentioned to Carlos, is there any opportunity for branding, this kind of stuff? I think if that is something we could land, i.e., Hedera branding at the SpaceX site on the SealSQ DePIN itself, and combine that with something like a joint press release, whatever it might be, I think to have that proximity to SpaceX with that buzzword of DePIN with Hedera for what is a ginormous use case could definitely be a big piece of news, and hopefully one that could get the sort of viral traction that perhaps we had with, the Arcax tokenizing a portion of the BlackRock MMF. So I'd love to see that part of it particular really take some footing and working to sort of achieve that for sure.
Absolutely. And one of our other marquee use cases is absolutely Karate Combat, and they have been killing it. So we just had another event with Karate Combat 47. What I had kind of been expecting is, after really big publicized events, a bit of a drop-off. I've been expecting that for a while. When we've had other events back in December, we had an event where we had Pettis and Henderson fighting, and that was in Las Vegas. There was a lot of promotion around that, and I was expecting a drop-off. We saw the exact opposite. We went from 11,000 unique players up to, I think, 20,000 or 20-some thousand. This time it was the same thing. We had a huge event back at Karate Combat 46, and I was expecting a drop-off or the potential for a drop-off. At that last event at Karate Combat 46, we had Joe Rogan, we had Shane Gillis, we had Mario Newfall all show up at the event. And of course, the buzz around Karate Combat at Consensus was amazing. So I was thinking, again, we were going to see a little bit of a drop-off, but we didn't see that. We had a little bit of under 100,000. So I think it was like 92,000 unique users at that Consensus event. And what did we see this time? Almost 120,000 unique users. It jumped up. So I'm realizing that it's not necessarily the promotion and the size of the event that you're seeing today. It's the next one that gets a lot of the benefit from that, because people get involved with that highly publicized event, and then they want to be involved with the Up Only Gaming for the following event. They're hitting on all cylinders. The other thing is they're actually seeing more traction or more excitement around some of these influencer fights. And at the next event in Nashville, there's another crypto event there, Bitcoin in Nashville. They're going to have another round of these influencer fights. They're going to be absolutely amazing. And I'm also going to go back to the rule set for Karate Combat, the pit as well. But the rule set is really special. It really is perfect to set up these super exciting fights. Same time as Karate Combat 47, or the same weekend, we had UFC 303. And both of the main events for those two events ended in a head kick and a knockout. But the one for Karate Combat was that much more exciting. Now, everybody was nervous after it happened because it was a pretty violent knockout. Just to start off, listen to this knockout.
In the ball, oh my God! What a knockout! Have you ever seen anything like that? Jumping switch kick, unconscious! What the heck? Oh my God!
Now, I do want to say that everybody was nervous after that knockout. There was a huge celebration directly after it, but everybody was nervous for James Vick after that. I do want to say that he is fine. He is back in the gym working out. So our biggest fear was alleviated, but you don't get a bigger highlight reel than that. I have never seen any kind of a knockout like that in my life. And it really is because the core product of Karate Combat is fantastic. And it's only going to keep growing. And what they do with Web3 is enhance it. It's that much better because you're on the edge of your seat, because you actually have some skin in the game. So do you have any thoughts around what we've seen come from Karate Combat over the last few months?
Well, I mean, I don't think it's any far stretch to say that we have probably the largest consumer application in Web3 sitting on Hedera, despite Hedera having that original enterprise focus. Of course, there's a huge amount that needs to be done on the retail philosophy, I think, within Hedera, which has been, spoken about in my absence and been, perpetuated online. But I really, really think that as a single application in retail, in Web3, we have the one with what feels like the largest growth trajectory, right? This is a application that is growing week on week, or rather event on event. It's only getting picked up now by the likes of Joe Rogan in public. We've seen him, talk about it before in the podcast, but it seems like now he's hopefully going to be more at these events, but he's really got, the first-hand experience to deliver to his Web2 audience. And then, of course, we're seeing all the influencers and the Influencer Fight Club. We're seeing every event, it's sort of trend on Twitter. And we're, again, like I mentioned, seeing that actual on-chain data increase as well. So I think this is probably the most exciting consumer application we have at the moment. And I really want to see us, really, really lean into that as, both a community, but also organizationally, across the board. And, that was a big achievement for the foundation there on the retail side. And I'm only, want to see that be lent into more. So exciting times for Karate Combat, and no doubt we'll see the similar growth at the next events.
Well, it's certainly capturing the imagination of the crypto space. There's no question about that. But it's also the fight sphere. We have Joe Rogan, as we mentioned. We have Michael Bisping that interviewed President Awesome after there was some interesting things that happened at that last event. But people are just interested in exactly what's happening. And even though I don't see Karate Combat as a game, it is a play to earn. And on the play to earn list, it is already at number 2. And as you've mentioned, the trajectory is only up and to the right. So super exciting there. I've kind of changed my idea around Hedera with it. We don't necessarily have to promote Karate Combat. We can leverage Karate Combat to promote Hedera. And we certainly understand we've had some ads over the past few events for Hedera, and we're trying to update that ad for the next one to make it more pointed for the demographic we're talking to there. And we're also going to try to differentiate as far as our presence on the pit. We know we have that Karate Combat seal right in the center of the pit, but we want to put built on Hedera because we want to differentiate what Hedera is to Karate Combat from all the other sponsors. So we are trying to leverage the Karate Combat Hedera relationship to get as much traction as we possibly can. All right, so we're going to shift gears here a little bit. We're going to get into one of the data points that we're really excited about, and that's developer activity. Zep, what do we have on that?
Yeah, so for the second month in a row, Hedera has topped the developer activity chart on Santiment feed, which is one of the tools people use to track various metrics, on-chain metrics within Web3. I think this is an overwhelming positive. Each sort of data tracking company, of course, has their own methodology for revealing who is in the lead in this leaderboard. But either way, I really think this is a massive positive indicator of the work of the likes of Swirled Labs, the leading developer arm in the Hedera community, but also the works of the Hashgraph Association with their ongoing hackathons. We've seen they did a massive one in India, which I believe is still ongoing, and also looking towards the likes of Australia and beyond that. And I really think this is a reflection of that sort of combined effort. So really exciting to see that, and I hope to see us top again in a month's time.
Agreed. And we are going to be getting some more tools when it comes to just analytics in general. We have something coming from the TIE. Do you have any information on that as well?
So the TIE have collaborated with the HBAR Foundation for a new data analytics dashboard. This will provide a single source of truth for things like TPS, for latency, account created, TVL, decentralization of validators, and so on and so forth, so that we have a really, really strong dashboard for these institutions, for the retail, for whoever it might be, news media, to get that sort of best-in-class dashboard as provided by one of the leading information providers in Web3. So to be clear, this is an early beta, based on early community feedback from both the community itself, but developers, grantees, so on. This will be something that will be iterated on over time. It's not perfect now, but we're working, the foundation's working really, really hard to make sure that this is something that will boost transparency within the network and the work of the grantees and the developers and the teams themselves.
I think they're making some tweaks right now, but when it comes back up, I'm looking forward to using it for sure. All right, we're going to move over to Hedera Gaming with Earthlings. They have just started their banking dashboard. It's going to allow you to stake your Steam. You get bonuses based off of some of the Earthlings NFTs you have. All you have to do right now is go to the site. You can connect your wallet and you just put your email in. They haven't actually started the staking quite yet. They're going to be sending you more information through that email, and then you'll be able to get started. And I expect that over the next week or so. So look forward to that one. Make sure you get signed up and put your email in right now. All right. So the next thing we have, of course, is Shark Bites. We got some great questions from the community this week. And of course, Rob did not disappoint. Rob, welcome back. How are things over in Italy?
Hey, Brandon. La Dolce Vita. It is beautiful every day. I spent the last few hours in the garden, so I'm looking a little bit pink, I think.
Well, we certainly don't want to get burned, but last week we got into Alice. She works behind the scenes at the HBAR Foundation, and I know that the HBAR Foundation is catching a lot of heat right now, but there are a lot of good people that work at the foundation. There are a lot of people that are working behind the scenes that people might not even know about. And I was wondering if you wanted to highlight anybody else this week.
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. I mean, there are people who work diligently behind the scenes in all these foundations. And people I've worked with who, aren't necessarily on everyone's kind of minds all the time. Zepsi, right, for one. Okay, so, Rufus Zepsi is an unsung hero for me. I know he's kind of on the show most weeks, but he does so much work in the background. He's such a degen as well, which is, unusual in the foundation. He's kind of so connected to the community and other communities as well. He does a lot of research. So I think, he definitely deserves to be on Sharky's list of unsung heroes, along with Alice. Definitely on my team, should it ever come to that. And there are others, right? I mean, the association has people who you almost never hear about, Anindya Rao-Chowdhury, Jeff Chewy, David Guan. They're all awesome people with whom I've worked. And, and India is almost single-handedly responsible for all the Indian opportunities and ventures that have been going on out there. The Bharat Blockchain Yatra as well. Jeff and David are almost single-handedly holding together APAC from an association perspective. Amazing people who are doing incredible stuff for Hedera. So they all deserve a mention, I think, from time to time. And I'm delighted to be able to bring their names to the fore. And I'm sure there'll be others that I'll think of as we go. Yeah, I know there are many that I would like to talk about in future weeks, but let's leave it there for now.
All right, fair enough. And of course, we have so many people in the community that are busting their butts as well.
Oh,
and the next question comes from one of those, which is Patricia from the premier marketplace on Hedera, NFT Marketplace. So Patricia from Centex said, "Hi, Brandon and Rob. My question for Rob is, what would you personally do if you were in that position to start creating buzz and bring attention for Hedera retail, a crucial side of any crypto network?" And I certainly have my thoughts, but Rob, I'll kick it to you first.
Now, why don't you start for once?
Fair enough.
Go on.
One of the things that I would do, and I don't know if we have the ability to do this, I would fund account 800 to get staking rewards up and even goose those rewards a little bit. And the reason why I would do that is it does certainly help retail. They certainly want that return, but it also helps our builders out there. So teams that generate revenue in HBAR, they would be further incentivized because they could then hold that HBAR and get a little bit of an additional return. And instead of a top-down approach where you're giving out grants and deciding how things are going to be allocated, it's the teams that are successful, that are usually retail facing, getting that revenue in HBAR. They're the ones that are going to get the benefit. So I think of it more of a bottom up, a ground roots approach rather than a top down approach. So that's one of the things that if I was all powerful, that's one of the things that I would do. So, there's plenty of other things that I would lean towards, but that probably would be the first thing that I would do.
That's a great idea. I mean, account 800 and native staking rewards is kind of one of the things that would attract more external retail into the community and retain those who are already in the community at a far higher level than it currently is, right? So, at its de minimis level at the moment and ever falling, it's not going to attract anyone. So it's not actually serving any purpose at all, in my view. So I think anything that can juice that a little bit is a great idea. I like anything really that attracts external communities in, right? So any cross community, cross chain, even cross layer one participation to expose the great Hedera services and bringing in the developers and the degens of other ecosystem into ours. There are a lot of mercenaries out there as well, of course. So things like native staking is one of those attractants. But having great user experiences in Patty's own platform, Centex, exposing some of those amazing things that no other chains have that you can get through the NFT marketplace, getting people working with SourceSwap and our other DeFi ecosystem participants is something that is necessary, I think, to really turbocharge this. And that can only be done really by Web3, retail, and even degen-based marketing. We need to really strike the chords. We need to understand what is necessary to attract the retail part of Web3 into our ecosystem. And we need to double down on that. I think we really need to understand what it takes to bring those sorts of people into our community. And once they're here, we hope to retain them. And that's not just, when we say retail, that means many things, right? For me, that means not only the degens, but also the users of our amazing solutions, everything from the DeFi through the NFT marketplace, even to games, like Earthlings. The developers, the ever-growing developer ecosystem, and also those who want to buy the HBAR and buy our tokens and participate in our token economies. That's a very broad range of retail participants, and marketing across all of that takes quite a lot of different approaches. So that's what I would really like to see. We need to attract the external retail ecosystem, and we need to retain them. So what I'm hoping to see over the course of the next, the second half of this year is a greater focus on those areas.
All right, so I have a little bit more to talk about on that, but I think I'm actually going to be able to touch on it in this next question. We have it from Blue-Eyed Crypto HBAR, who says, my question is, what is Hedera ecosystem lacking? What dApps are too few on Hedera? So what are your thoughts, Rob?
That's a great question. So we're in terms of dApps, we're growing. We've been behind other layer ones, I think it's fair to say. But when we actually establish the solutions on Hedera, we get far greater experiences. So we've not had lending, and now we're going to get 2 or 3 lending protocols, landing. So I would have said that, but that's not. I can't say that anymore. From a governing council perspective and from a CorpCom perspective, we are actually very focused on the infrastructure gaps, so infrastructural ecosystem gaps. We are behind, I think, other layer ones in terms of things like bridges and oracles and custodial wallets, for enterprise is a gap. So those are the sorts of things that we're kind of working towards building, and the foundation and Swells Labs are kind of spearheading that. From a CorpCom perspective, we're gathering requirements and we're kind of getting support from the governing council where they're building use cases and they need those things. So those are necessary. They're also necessary and related to the previous question. It's very hard to get external communities into ours if we don't have the bridges and have the tooling and the sorts of things that they expect or are familiar in other ecosystems, other layer ones. So we need to build all those capability or integrate those service providers into our ecosystem, so that the table stakes have been laid. Right, we're not in our first year. We have to actually double down and really ensure that these ecosystem integrations are in place, and very quickly now, because as we come into this next cycle and this next kind of wave, we can't get the developers into the ecosystem if we don't have the integrations that they're expecting. And then the dApps themselves will obviously build capability on top of those things. What
I think one of the things, we're starting to get to the point where we can let success breed more success. We don't necessarily, there are certainly places where we have to do exactly what you're saying and build out infrastructure, key infrastructure in the space. But there's also things where let's let the market decide what's going to be successful, allow them to start to gain traction, and then support them with some of these entities like the HBAR Foundation, like the Hashgraph Association, once they've started to get that success, to take them to that next level. We may not know what's going to have the most success, but after we allow them to gain that traction, we might be able to see with a little bit more clarity where we're going to see that success in the future.
Sure, but we can look to other protocols. We can look to other layer ones and see what is successful and see what's actually attracting, the far greater participation from their communities, and copy that playbook. There's no shame in actually doing that, because it works elsewhere, right? So we have seen that when we do repeat that playbook, that take the leaves out of that, the other layer one books, we can build actually far better in the Hedera ecosystem, certainly from a user experience perspective and from a performance perspective. So I think we could do both. We should be led by demand, but at the same time, there are easy wins that we need to make. One of the challenges that we have with integrating external ecosystem integrations and service providers is that they need demand. They need to see volume. So there's a bit of a chicken and egg there, where they don't prioritize Hedera unless there are lots of organizations or people demanding those integrations with Hedera. For example, Hedera token service integrations on exchanges. They need to hear that there will be volume and therefore revenue for them before they do the integrations. Same with custodial wallets. Same with the bridges and the oracles. So it is a chicken and egg. We do need demand, and that's one of the things that we're doing with CorpCom, is to try and focus the top end of town, the governing council, through their use cases to ensure that those requirements are fed into those service providers so that they can prioritize the integrations with Hedera.
Fantastic points. All right, this next one is going to be pretty easy for you. Rapunzel has this one asking, Rob, can we have other leaders in the Hedera ecosystem, such as Charles Atkins, join? And I'm assuming she's talking about join SharkBytes.
Well, yes, but this is your show, not mine. So, I mean, you ask people on SharkBytes, on the HBAR Bull all the time. I'm not sure there's room for someone in the SharkBytes section. I usually consume quite a lot of your time already. So, but maybe it'd be quite fun. I really enjoyed that the New Year show with Zepsi, where we kind of all three of us had a chat. So maybe Charles would be an excellent addition to a little three-way like that.
I think Charles in particular would be a great person to have on and have a conversation. You guys have another council member meeting coming up, right?
We have the monthly, so there's a governing council meeting on the 10th of July. I talk to Charles quite a lot. And so, if he was willing to come and riff and do some AMA on Shark Bites, then I'd be happy to have him.
Well, we want to get some insights and maybe see behind the curtain a little bit. So maybe before I go on vacation, we can get Charles on here. We can ask him a few questions, get some of your insights as well, and we'll be able to fill that week when I'm gone.
Awesome. Yeah, let's do that.
All right, sounds good. We got one more for you, Rob, and this one comes from Jaguar HBAR, who asks, are these major enterprise use cases such as Neuron and SealSQ intending to launch a token on the network? Now, we just had Carlos on, and he mentioned that they are going to have their Seal token. Neuron is also going to have a token. Now, Neuron is more of a startup where SealSQ and WiseKey are more on the enterprise side, but they're both enterprise-facing. They're both providing solutions for enterprise. We've heard Neuron talk about how they're talking to Google Wing and the National Health Service over there in the UK. So, Rob, I guess the question I have for you, we've already answered that they are both going to be launching tokens here this fall. But the question I have for you is, why would teams like Neuron and SealSQ issue tokens when they are enterprise facing?
Well, these are decentralized systems, and decentralized systems tend to need token economies to incentivize the participation in those ecosystems. It's part of the commercial model, the economic model of all decentralized solutions. So the cryptocurrencies at the base layer, and then the token economies that sit on top of those, that enable those participants to utilize those systems, those decentralized systems, make a great deal of sense to many of these participants. Sometimes they make no sense whatsoever, and tokens don't work and ultimately go to zero. But I think for decentralized physical infrastructure platforms like Neuron and SealSQ, it makes a great deal of sense. You need to incentivize users or participants to run the infrastructure themselves. You do that through the earning of these tokens, which obviously have a value on secondary markets, and then the aspects of those platforms are themselves able to use those tokens. So drones potentially making micropayments between them to participate in particular ways. And I'm not fully across all the SealSQ use cases, other than I'm super excited about doing it. I've actually got my Neuron device en route, so as soon as I get back to Australia, I'll be able to start kind of plugging data into that into the network, and very excited about that. I've been talking to Milan; he's already running one, and he's very bullish about Neuron. So yeah, the tokens actually do make a lot of sense for these sorts of networks. I've been talking about IoT networks for some time, and the helium thing, and other use cases that we're looking at in Australia for doing micropayments across devices and IoT devices. All need these ways of incentivizing behavior, and tokens are perfect to do that.
Well, that's one of the things that, I mean, yes, their customers are enterprises in a lot of cases, but the owners of these networks, the owners of these sensors, I mean, you had to buy the sensor,
Sure.
and that's pretty much buying into the network, and then you're operating the network, so you need to be incentivized to do that. So there's absolutely a retail owner component to these networks as well. Yep.
Well, and the actors fulfill different roles, or many roles in some cases, right? So sometimes you're a device operator, or sometimes you're a user or a consumer or customer of the data that's being provided, or an enterprise that uses the platform, and but with people inside who may be fulfilling different roles as well. So I mean, this is the great thing about decentralized systems. You can participate in many different ways.
Absolutely. All right, Rob, that's pretty much all we have for you today. We appreciate you taking time while you're taking a little bit of time off to come and answer the questions. Again, great questions from the community. Keep dropping those down in the comments, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Brandon. Take care.
So, Zep, the man, Sharky Rob himself, gave you a nice shout out there.
Yeah, I'm flustered. Thank you very much, Rob. No, it's something that's truly appreciated, and especially coming from Rob, who's one of those real bastions of the ecosystem. So thank you very much, Sharky.
All right, the next thing I want to touch on is from the HBAR Foundry. Now, the HBAR Foundry is a collection of developers and builders within the Hedera space helping each other try to move this entire space forward. And they have these regular town halls. This one was on developers themselves. And I grabbed a few highlights. Most of them were from Milan that I thought were really good to pass on. So let's check it out.
Previously, I was a beekeeper. I was very active in the beekeeping sector, and then found out about Hedera. And everybody was talking around that time. It was, I think, early 2021. Was talking about blockchain, and I was always like, yeah, it doesn't really make sense. I don't see how we can apply it. You can apply it in in real life and use cases. And then somebody pointed me to Hedera. I was like, okay, this is mind blowing. And from that moment on, I have been. My head has been on Hedera every single day, 7 days a week. So I started early 2021. I gave myself the name, the Twitter name, which I still have the username, but not actively use, Hedera Dev. It was not because I was a developer at that time, but that I wanted to be a developer. So that was my mindset. I went for it, figured out that it took me quite some time. So instead of going straight for developer, I started helping out as a community member, wherever I contribute, wherever I could. Started with GoMint, the first NFT marketplace on Hedera, which is pretty interesting because there was not yet NFTs natively on the Hedera network. So Alex Taylor, who started together with Richard McNamara, GoMint, Alex created a way to serialize fungible tokens. So those are little things that got excited. It's like, wow, that's so interesting. So from that moment on, I learned more and more. Started with APIs, with Matt Smitty's API, deployable serverless API instance called Trust.Enterprises. It was really brilliant. Got me really into the no coding stuff, where I started kind of understanding the logic of programming to build logic, leveraging Hedera first, reading the mirror node, and then later on starting actually writing on the nodes, obviously sending transactions and so on. Became a team member of Earthlings, created my honey traceability system built on Hedera. I was one of the winners, third place of the hackathon, created a way to verify your physical presence through a NFC tag. And then when you tag the NFC tag, you could get an NFT. That's now called, it was called GeoTaps, now Tapo, and great team that's working on that. And obviously I'm also one of, in the leadership of the HBAR Foundry. And this is where I wake up with and go to bed with. It's all about Hedera. That's every single day, and I love it. The developer relations, the documentations, and the community, obviously, right? The community being there, helping around. I got a big shout out from Danilo, who created the DEX integrator on Hedera. And then I also heard he had a shout out to May, and then it's great to see that, for example, May and I from Hashback, we have a great relationship, but then we work parallel, helping other people out, other developers.
We sometimes have to undo some learnings from past networks. Introducing the notion of native services like native token service or the Hedera consensus service and things you can do without smart contracts. Because a lot of enterprise blockchain developers have trained and learned on Ethereum, and they often come to Hedera with an expectation that it's like Ethereum and everything you do through smart contracts. So we have to do a bit of unlearning there as well. And generally, we find that those developers with a bit of a nudge in the right direction, which is here's where the SDKs are, here's where the examples are, here's where the documentation is, become very self-sufficient very quickly.
maybe I should call it low code, no code. I don't know how to call it. Either way, there are several platforms, and the ones that I've used are, for example, it goes more towards workflow automation, and that's Zapier or Make.com, for example. Those I combined. I created like little templates. You could hook that up with Hedera, and you could make a little nice workflow. But what really created this huge realm of possibilities was with the software, which is, I believe, open source. It's called N8N.io, and basically you've got this blank canvas, and you can use the completely programming logic that you want. So, for example, you start with a trigger, a daily trigger. What happens then? And you connect it to the next node where it says, I don't know, mint an NFT, where it gives the current time or something like that. And then log it to Excel sheet. So it's really, you're using tools, you're connecting tools that you're using daily, like Google Sheets or Airtable, and creating like this programming logic. And it's, I mean, there's a little bit of barrier, but it's really great to establish a certain programming logic and make something work, or make a prototype that is very quickly. Like you can make a rapid prototype. In a day you can have a working logic. It's really that intrinsic motivation that not necessarily having as a person, when I'm talking about these the community developers, having kind of like an assignment. Oh, I have to build this and I will do it. I'm getting paid. I have to build this and I'll do it. And it's probably getting done. It is, hey, I want to build this and I'm going to make it super cool. And I'm going to work through the night and I'm going to wake up early, or maybe I won't sleep because I'm going to do this and it's going to be amazing.
What are some things you'd like to see improved?
Yeah. Am I unmuted? Yes. So that's yeah. Thank you, Ken. So I mean, this goes further. It goes further for me than like only really purely developing, right, coding on Hedera. It's really about what we need on grassroots level. It directly relates to the intrinsically motivated people. So what we've seen recently, obviously the what's going on in the Hedera ecosystem in terms of like some data has come out on compensation, and which is not a necessary problem on its own. It's more about, hey, does it match up with the support that we've gotten? I'm in contact with a lot of people, and there's this constant reigning culture of I'm going to be pretty raw here. Apologies, not apologies, but I'm just going to say it's really a culture of lack of accountability and non-responsiveness. That's something, and that's really within the leadership within the Hedera organizations. So that's something that as a builder I cannot live with, and that's really tough. I mean, this takes it occupies a big part of my my mental health, I would say, because I'm here because I'm intrinsically motivated. I'm here because I want to build on Hedera. But if you see that leadership does not seem to really care about the people, the grassroots who are building on Hedera, who are contributing on to the network, who are the ones who are buying HBAR. I mean, we should not forget that that's kind of what is paying for the network for a lot of salaries. It's pretty tough. I'm gonna say it's bluntly, it's tough for a builder to see that and to you're doubting, hey, is this going to change? So putting it out there, we need an ecosystem-wide leadership reset. We need a giraffe, in other words. That is, you can't ignore it. We can't just live on enterprise or the idea of enterprise, because we need those intrinsic motivated people. Those are the lifeblood of the ecosystem, and those are the ones that are going to nurture them, take care of them. We need 1,000 Gregs to be there. I mean, I'm going to. So I said it in the beginning, Greg. I'm going to say it again. You've been really amazing, and you are consistently. Maybe you've even joined more often the Foundry calls. The root of the voice, the pulse of the builders on Hedera. You've consistently joined those meetings, right? And we need more. We need to have that relationship with the leadership. And and otherwise, it's going to be pretty tough for the intrinsic motivated builders to keep building.
So we appreciate everything that the HBAR Foundry is doing. And without further delay, we're going to get into some network analysis. The transaction volume for Hedera over the past 7 days has been volatile, and we dropped down to about 200 TPS for a few days. But since it has recovered, and we just jumped to over 2,000 transactions per second in the last few hours. We also managed to get a max TPS of just about 6,700. Time to consensus finality is staying down at an impressive 3.2 seconds, and we created about 20,000 accounts just over the past week. Looking at our fungible tokens, Wrapped HBAR took the top spot, followed by Karate, Dovu, Sauce, and the native version of USDC. Next up, we have Energy Trade Token, Jam, and VR Blue. The top 10 is rounded out by Bridged USDC and Hashpax Pack Token. Moving down to our NFTs, I'm really impressed with the Road Code Access card, which once again took the top spot. That's followed by Saucer Swap's Liquidity Provider Token, Karateka Gear Cards, and the Slime World NFT. I'm also happy to see that Doctor Who Worlds Apart is moving up the list, and that's followed by the Times WTF, the Blade Wallet Loyalty Card, and the new DEX Silk Swaps Token. And with that, let's do a quick review of Hedera DeFi. The total value locked in the Hedera DeFi ecosystem dropped significantly to about $62 million as token prices across the crypto space had a hard week. Saucer Swap makes up $57 million of that TVL, HSuite $2.8 million, and HeliSwap $1.36 million. Taking a look at the HBAR and crypto markets, as mentioned, most tokens are down significantly, and HBAR certainly took it on the chin. Breaking significant support, Bitcoin is down 6% on the week and 2.5% on the day to $56,700. HBAR is down 14% on the week and 2.5% on the day, but has bounced hard off an old level of support at 6 cents and is currently in an area of potential resistance at 6.8 cents. If we can break that, 7.5 cents is the next area of likely resistance. Not financial advice, but I am looking to bargain hunt around these levels. I bought some Karate last week and have some cash ready if we take another leg down to pick up some more. All right, Zep, that's pretty much all we have. Is there anything else you'd like to pass on?
Yeah, I think the highlights for me, both SealSQ as well as Karate Combat, both for this week and previous weeks, but also for the future growth of them both. And not only on that sort of mainnet level, but also on that marketing and awareness front. Those are two projects that I think could really, really give us and continue to give us more exposure moving forward. So I'm excited to see us talking about that marketing relationship there more and more, and excited to seeing that grow in the future.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree more. We have all kinds of stuff coming up next week. I'm going to have Neuron on. Of course, that's one of our other DPIN plays in the Hedera space. I've actually introduced James to Carlos as well to see if there's any collaboration. So I'm going to have an interview with James next week. We're also going to have an interview with the founder of Trading Games, which we highlighted last week. I'm going to have an AMA with Carlos from SealSQ. I'm sure a lot of people have some questions for that team. So that's going to be at 10 a.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Of course, get your questions down below for Sharky Rob. We're going to have Shark Bites, of course, again next week. And I'm also going to have a space with Genfinity on all the stuff that's going on in our DeFi ecosystem. So that's all we have. We'll see you next week.